Alright, so this is going to be a part 2 to the other video I made regarding the Palestinian-Israel conflict. When I made that video, I remembered a story I heard about a city called Medina and how the Muhammad, the prophet, he fled to Medina from Mecca. So I googled it and I found this. When Muhammad fled from Mecca in 622, he went to Medina. At first, he entered into an alliance with the Jews. He studied in their study halls and adopted many of their customs. Ah, that's very generous of them. Into his insipid religion. Oh, wait, can I say that? I'll chance it. E.g., not eating pork. I didn't know that. But when after 2 years Mohammed could not convince the Jews to accept him as a prophet and convert to his religion, his attitude toward them turned hostile. He instructed his friends to yeet and decappa Kab ibn al-Asraf, probably said that wrong, a renowned Jewish poet and chief of the Banu Nadir, probably said that wrong too, date farmer tribe, and ordered his followers to yeet every you can. That's very peaceful. Mohammed then besieged the Banu blacksmith tribe, knowing that the other two Jewish tribes would not come to their aid. Although the Banu were proficient warriors, the lack of food and water due to the siege weakened them to the point of surrender. So yeah, like the author of this article says, it doesn't make any sense how the other Jewish tribes wouldn't help the blacksmith tribe. But depends on how much they hate each other. Another example of that in history would be the Native Americans. The Native Americans were all divided, and some of the tribes hated each other and killed each other. Or no, sorry, yeeted each other, and the Europeans were able to take advantage of that. Mohammed's forces at that point were weaker than the combined Jewish forces would have been. Why didn't the date farmers and the wine merchants unite to break the siege? Well, they hated each other. How could they sit on their hands and let their brethren perish? Surely they should have realized that uniting in order to eradicate the murderous Mohammed's forces would be in their long-term self-interest. Again, you see that with the Native Americans. By the time the Native Americans started to unify, it was way too late. Mohammed confiscated their considerable assets, strengthened by captured Jewish wealth. 1 year later, Mohammed turned his attention to the next Jewish tribe, the date growers, to ensure that the tribe of the wine merchants would not come to the rescue of their fellow Jews. Mohammed made an alliance with the wine merchants. Really? Okay. Yeah, it is crazy. And again, Native Americans kind of did the same thing. The French had their own Indian allies, and the British had theirs. Mohammed's forces laid siege to the strongholds of the Jewish date farmers in 625. Like the previous Jewish tribe, they succumbed to the siege. Again, Abdul-Abbay, probably said that wrong, intervened, and instead of slaughtering the vanquished Jews, Mohammed exiled them to the city of Khaybar, which according to Muslim tradition was inhabited by descendants of the Jewish priestly tribe. 3 years later, Muhammad conquered Khaybar, the wealthiest city in northern Arabia, because the Muslims did not know agriculture. Muhammad permitted most of the Jews to live as dhimmis, probably said that wrong, officially second-class citizens who would pay exorbitant taxes. Back in Medina, the wine merchant tribe had only 2 years to relish their position as the sole surviving Jews. Then in 627, Mohammed with 3,000 soldiers laid siege to their fortress. The Jewish tribe had only 450 trained warriors, and because Abdullah ibn Ubay, probably said the name wrong, he was the guy who got Muhammad to show mercy to the Jews. He had died a few months before. The Jews knew that no one would intercede on their behalf. The leader of the besieged Jews proposed that they either convert to Islam or similar to Masada. Masada is a fortress that the Romans besieged, I guess, if I remember correct. Eat their own women and children to prevent their being ravished and enslaved, and then fight the Muslims to the death. The Jews rejected both opinions and offered to surrender and leave Medina. Mohammed rejected their offer, and the vanquished wine merchant tribe, who had twice refused to help the other besieged Jewish tribes, suffered a worse fate. The children were sold as slaves. The women were given to the victorious soldiers for the Muslims to use, and the men, except for 3 who agreed to convert to Islam, were decapitated in the marketplace. According to Muslim tradition, the blood of the decapitated Jews flooded the marketplace of Medina. A large, powerful, affluent Jewish community was destroyed in just 3 years. Was it destroyed by Muhammad's forces, or was it destroyed by its own divisionness? Is that a word? So the reason why I thought this story was interesting, when I read it, it sounds exactly what's happening nowadays. The West, they let in Muslims, kind of like how the Jews of Medina let in Muhammad, and what happens? Some are peaceful, kind of like how Muhammad was in the first few years he was there, and some, well, aren't. Now I know Israel's a Middle Eastern country. However, that guy who rammed a bunch of people with his vehicle, he was a Palestinian if I'm not mistaken. So why did they let him into Israel? And that's how Israel in the Western world is the same. They both let in Muslims. Some are good, some are bad. It even says in this story that Muhammad fled from Mecca, so in other words, he was a refugee, right? And as for the divided tribes, well, you have nations that are completely divided. You have all these groups, quote unquote, diversity. Well, that's division, divide and conquer. Another example, in the West, there are many religions, but in Muslim countries, the predominant one, sometimes the only one, is Islam. Okay, so quick disclaimer. The Palestinian who used his car as a ram, there is a small chance he's Christian. I highly doubt it, though. Alright, well, that's it for my thoughts on the matter. Take care out there in Clown World.